Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 11, text number 22nd. This chapter is entitled The Transcendental Qualities of Vritasura. Please repeat. 19. Sorry, Vritasura's glorious death. 12. So this is 12, 19. Right on. Indra Uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Jasyate matiri drishir Bhakta sarvatman matmanam Suridam jagadishwaram Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Jasyate matiri drishir Bhakta sarvatmatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Yasyate matir idrishi Bhakta sarvatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Jasyate matir idrishi Bhakta sarvatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Yasyate matiri Bhakta sarvatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram. Matais. Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Yasyate matiri drishi Bhakta sarvatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Yasyate matiri drishi Bhakta sarvatmanam Indra uvacha Ahodanavasidosi Yasyate matiri drishi Bhakta sarvatmanam Suridam jagadishwaram. Indra uvacha. Indra said, Aho, hello, Dhanava, O demon, Siddha, Asi, you are now perfect. Jasya, whose, Te, your, Matihi, consciousness, Idrishit, such as this, Bhaktaha, a great devotee, Sarvatmana, without diversion, Atmanam, to the super soul, Suridham, the greatest friend, Jagadishwaram, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation. Indra said, please repeat. Indra said, O great demon, I see by your discrimination and endurance in devotional service, despite your dangerous position, that you are a perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul and friend of everyone. Indra uvacha ahodanava sidosi jasyate matiri drishit bhakta sarvat manatmanam suridam jagadishwaram. Indra said, O great demon, I see by your discrimination and endurance in devotional service, despite your dangerous position, that you are the perfect devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul and friend of everyone, purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 6.22, Jam lagdva chaparam lavam manyate nadikam tata jasmin stito nadukena guru napi vichalyate. Established in Krishna consciousness, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. An unalloyed devotee is never disturbed by any kind of trying circumstance. Indra was surprised to see that Vritrasura, undisturbed, was fixed in devotional service to the Lord. For such a mentality is impossible for a demon. However, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, anyone can become an exalted devotee. Striya Vaishyas Tatha Sudras Tepi Janti Param Gatim. And an unalloyed devotee is sure to return home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 12, Text 20. Vritrasura, Glorious Death. So, in this chapter, there's a very practical instruction for all of us. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada will defend the fact that this process or this philosophy, in fact, is very practical. Because sometimes the accusation is there that this is just theory, right? So all these stories presented in the Srimad Bhagavatam are very practical in the sense that we can apply them in our life. So when we read Bhagavatam, the winning point is that we have to think, how can I apply this in my life? So we find many historical details, we find many geographical details, and very philosophical details. But we have to translate those details into our practical life. How these details can become applicable in our own practice of Krishna consciousness. So this is a very important pastime. Why? Because it talks about conflict. And I'm pretty sure that if I ask all of you who haven't had a conflict in your life, no one will raise their hand, right? If I ask who here in this room never had a problem with someone or a conflict with someone, will anybody dare to raise his or her hand? Yeah? No? No? No exceptions. So in other words, we all are in the same club, in the same boat. We all have experienced problems or conflicts with someone, right? Now here we have a sort of clear-cut script. Why? Because on one side, who is fighting here? Vritrasura and Indra. You know, when we have a story we have the goodies and the baddies, right? We have the good ones and the bad ones. So the demons are the devatas, they are the good ones. And the demons are the bad ones. Yes? That's the easy divide. But here it is a very interesting detail or aspect to the conflict. By the way, we can say this is a conflict resolution. I mean, if you want to make it really practical, conflict resolution lesson, tips, discussion. So here we have a demon who is, according to the description, a very exalted devotee. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that he is actually more exalted than Indra. And in fact, you have heard this term win-win situation. It's a very popular thing nowadays, right? Win-lose, lose-lose, win-win, you know these things, right? Different types of conflict resolutions. So the one that has made a few people rich around the world is this win-win solution, meaning that everybody wins. You have a conflict. The old school meant that you had to kill the person or defeat the person, embarrass the person, chase away the person, etc. But nowadays, the new approach is win-win. So everybody's happy. Everybody ends up winning, right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually says that the true winner here is Vritrasura, right? And there are details about this pastime. I don't want to get too much into the details or the historical details, but you know, the fighting is going on. And then I don't remember if at this point already Vritrasura had cut one arm, right? I was traveling the last week, so I haven't heard the latest class. Both arms already. I think first is one arm, and then he comes back, and then he cuts the other arm, and like pretty bloody situation, right? So it's very intense and very dramatic, but it's still the highest lessons are given here. Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that, in fact, because at one point Vritrasura becomes gigantic and he swallows Indra, right? And then because Indra is protected by a shield called Narayan Kavacha, right? Then he's able, and because of his own mystic powers, he's able to destroy Vritrasura. But in fact, the acharyas explain that by then Vritrasura already had detached himself from his body. So in fact, Indra didn't kill him. He already had voluntarily given up his body. Like that. That's why, but that's a historical, who's winning, who's losing, like that. So we are in the middle of this scene where they are fighting. They are bashing each other. I think, I don't recall, but I think that already one or two arms have been severed from Vritrasura's body. One arm. Okay, so after one arm being cut, this is happening. So what happens is that when they were fighting, Indra attacked Vritrasura. Vritrasura retaliate, and he threw the thunderbolt that Indra had in his arm, and the thunderbolt fell, or trident, right? Trident. So Indra was so embarrassed that obviously Vritrasura was being stronger and more skillful in the fight, that he felt dejected. He felt, you know, Arjuna's pastime in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, what is the famous line? I shall not fight. Remember? So in the same way, when a Kshatriya or someone very powerful is defeated or embarrassed, he feels ashamed, then he feels, oh, I'd rather give up. You know, we have these stories also in the mundane world when somebody's found doing something a bit inappropriate, and the person in shame just leave, right? Because they don't want to face the public shame. So in the same way, Indra wasn't keen on continuing fighting because he was embarrassed. So what happens that Britasura started preaching to him, right? Like in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is encouraging Arjuna to fulfill his duty, right? What is this? You're such a big warrior, you're talking big words, and now you are like a fool lamenting. In essence, that's what Krishna tells Arjuna. So the same way, Britasura is telling Indra, such a great demigod, he's considered the king of heaven, and there you are, lamenting and morose. Pick up your weapon, let's continue this fight. So, all throughout their conversation, as Prabhupada says, they are not only fighting, they are doing their duty, because one is on one side, one is on the other. They are Kshatriyas, they are fighting like this. But they are discussing Krishna Katha. Right? That's the important part. This is not a martial art presentation. This is a devotional presentation where Krishna consciousness is the main theme of the pastime. So how do we learn from this? Right? Let's go back. This is the context, the historical context, the philosophical context. So let's get this back to our life. I started the class asking if any of you had any conflicts or problems in your life. So by default, I'm assuming that everyone has had this experience, right? At some point, right? And some of us that have been in the movement for a little while, most times those conflicts have happened with devotees, right? So I may ask a second question. Who of you haven't had a problem with a devotee? Anyone? Exceptions? Right? We all have, shamelessly, we have to admit that we all have had some problem with some devotee. Yes? Whether by your own causing or by your karma, and it just came to you. You all have had some problems. We all have had some problem with devotees. So this pastime teaches us how can we deal with a situation such as the one that we are referring to. When you have problems with the devotee, right? Because, and I'm using this context, that conflict with devotees. Why? Because I don't want to use the context of devotee versus demon. Because sometimes when somebody comes and insults us, or makes some politics, or backstabbing, or, you know, those sort of things, that we generally think, oh, he's a demon, or she's a demon, or she's crazy, or he's a politician, and we have all this. So I'm saying it's amongst devotees. Both are devotees here, in the true sense, although technically one is on the side of the demons. But Indra is glorifying him as a perfect devotee. So what do we do? This is the lesson of this chapter, of this pastime, right? So in this case, let's take, you have your passport photograph, right? So instead of Indra, that's you. Someone is attacking you. He's saying you are so bad, you are so puffed up, you are so lazy, useless, etc., etc., etc. Right? So what is your first response? Right? Just think. Maybe a reflective exercise. What is your first response? Somebody start talking around or sending letters, right? Sending emails. You know, we have the forum here in Mayapur, right? So sometimes we see these things. Sometimes we're involved in those things. So somebody insults you, your first reaction is to attack back, right? But here we have an exception, because there are two dynamics going on. One is the physical one, that they are throwing the tridents and the thunderbolts and the different weapons. The other one is what the words that they are saying. And I don't remember the exact reference, but I heard it, I think, from Sachinanda Maharaj. But there's some Shastra, he quotes some Shastra, that he says that there are two swords in this world, right? One is made of steel, some metal, right? Strong sword. You know, all the Kshatriyas in the Mahabharata, they have the swords and the arrows and bows and things like that. But he's referring to some quotation where it says that there are two swords in this world. One is a big one, large one, made of metal. And the other one is a very short one, comparatively. But the short one, the small one, the soft one, is even stronger than the metal, larger, harder one. So guess which one is the small sword? The tongue. Like that. I believe it's Sachinanda Maharaj where I heard it from, but I don't want to take credit for something that I haven't read. So the sword that we have here, it's stronger than even if you carry a big sword, metal, steel, stainless steel or something, right? So the words, we have to observe the real dynamic that's going on right now, the sword of the, how do you use that, right? So what's the example here? That Indra, although being attacked by Britrasura, being ashamed by Britrasura, what is Indra doing in this verse? Who remembers what this verse says? By now we are a little awake, but he's glorifying Britrasura. So, sometimes also we notice that amongst us, I don't want to accuse anybody, but sometimes it happens that this glorification, sometimes we fight, right? And after that we make up. We pay obeisance, you know the standard. I don't know nowadays, but in the old days, if you fight, remember we were in the ashram, if you fought, you had to fast. You know, you get called to the temple leader, temple president, or bhakta leader, or commander, right? And then you were scolded. And then, what is the, you know, like gentlemen, when they fight or something, when they make up, they shake hands. So amongst the devotees, what is that you do? You pay obeisances, right? One time, my Guru Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, he was counseling a couple that were having problems. And they were saying both sides like that. And at the end, he said, now you pay obeisance. You know, surprising. It was nice. So, devotees pay obeisances. Because we're Vaishnavas. We're trying to. So, when somebody attacks you, you generally tend to react. You tend to defend yourself. Right? So what I was mentioning is that sometimes when we have a problem, then in order to turn it around, what happens is that you start flattering the other person. No, you are so great, Prabhu, you are amazing Vaishnava, I'm really sorry for all the insults and all the gossips and all the you know, rumors that I create about you for, I don't know, these years. But you just say a few words, cheap trade, and then that's it. But in fact here, Indra is pointing out what are the qualities that Britrasura is showing. Right? What does he say? I see by your discrimination and endurance in devotional service. Right? Despite your dangerous position. So he's very, very objective. So, if you are faced with conflict, if we are faced with conflict, then one of the tips is to be factual. What the person said, what the person did, how the person behaves, what are the person's qualities. Right? So be factual. Don't get, oh, I know these people, or he's from some country, or from some continent, or from some gender, or from some position. So all temple presidents are like that. All Matajis are like that. All etc. are like that. So let's not generalize. Let's be practical. Let's be factual. So that's what Indra is doing here. He's being factual. He has heard what Britasura has said. He has seen how he has behaved. And he's glorifying that. He's identifying the good qualities in a very objective way. Not only he sees it and he understands it like that, but he says it. Sometimes I have had the service of trying to mediate between two parties. And sometimes when I talk to one party in private, this party may say, no, but I appreciate this Prabhu. He's actually a very nice devotee. You know, we're friends for 30 years, somebody was telling me a few days ago. But they are fighting. So my question is, why don't you say it? You said all the bad things, but you don't say the good things. Right? So this is a very practical thing that we can apply, because all we have had problems, admittedly, with some devotee. Right? And I can guarantee that in the future you will have more problems with, hopefully not, but most probably yes. We will have some problems of different sorts or different kinds with some devotees. Right? So why don't we take this in our toolbox of how to improve our relationship with devotees. And just to try to gain your interest, because you may say, oh, this doesn't apply to me, I'm a very peaceful person. And some of you maybe, some of you are very saintly, you're living in Mayapur and you came here because of a reason. So I'm sure some of you are not the conflictive type, right? From the look of it. But why this is so important, right? Because the main problem, you see, our process is very simple. We only have a one-line process. And the process is to chant Hare Krishna, right? What's next? Chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, take prasadam. Getting hungry now. Chant Hare Krishna offenselessly. If you don't chant Hare Krishna offenselessly, you won't be happy. That's the thing. Say, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, take prasadam, etc., etc. But if you chant Hare Krishna offensively, then you won't be happy. Why? Because Krishna won't be happy. The devotees won't be happy. So you won't be happy. So it doesn't work. The formula doesn't work. So our process is a one-line process. Nowadays, we are in the era of making things simple, apparently. At least in the computer world and in the mobile phone world, right? Everything has to be simplified, minuscule, has to be minimized, right? The most powerful computer in the smallest space. The most powerful mobile phone in the smallest space, correct? Yesterday I asked one devotee to give me a USB, one of those things, right? To put some document. And he gave me the latest USB thing. It's hardly I could grab it. This small, 32 gigabytes. A tiny thing like this. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was joking. You know, but he loves gadgets, so he gave me this thing. So this is the world of simplifying things. So let's go with it. This is the simplest process. Chant Hare Krishna offenselessly. So this instruction is crucial according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, according to Haridas Thakur in the Harinam Chintamani, to live our life chanting Hare Krishna without offense. Because which is the first offense? Vaishnava Parat, Sadhuninda. Haridas Thakur is telling Lord Chaitanya, right? Sadhuninda. This is the first offense. The first and worst. Right? So, at the end of the 10th offenses, from the Padma Purana actually, the 10th offenses are originally from the Padma Purana. And when Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments on this, he specified, and he wrote quite extensively about this point, is because we are inattentive. Right? So when we chant, nowadays these japa retreats are very popular around the world. And the main point is to be attentive. Right? So in the same manner, when we relate with devotees, we have to be very attentive. Very attentive. Very careful. Right? Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, he quotes twice the verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam that describe Ambarish Maharaj as a perfect devotee. Sabai Mana Krishna Padaravinda Yobacha. It's like 3-4 verses. Like, you know, and I was surprised. Twice, Prabhupada, in a purport, just the whole thing, Sanskrit and translation. And in one of those lines, it says that the symptom of a perfect devotee is one who associates closely. I mean, the literal translation of the words, it's touching the body of the devotees. That's what he says. I think it's Tadbrita Gratasas Sangash, something like that. That we are touching, you know, like we say in English or in other languages, you know, shoulder to shoulder, right? We live closely with devotees, right? Here in Mayapur, those who live here or wherever you live in your communities, you live in a close-knit community. You become very familiar. You know, and what's that line? Familiarity breeds contempt. What does it mean? That sometimes when you get too close to someone, you may fight. You may find faults, you may criticize, and you may offend. So you have to be very careful. So that's why these teachings are very important, because it's given us a lesson, because problems will happen. Right? Problems will happen. People get on your nerves. Right? They see how you act, they see how you talk, they see how you behave, and they get on your case. They will. We have to take it as Krishna's mercy. Thank you, Prabhu. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, those who are my true friends criticize me. Yes? So all those who criticize us, they are our true friends. They are telling us the real thing. Correct? This is from our point of view. But from the other angle, we shouldn't criticize devotees. Right? Lord Krishna, several times he says that. One who doesn't criticize others, not only devotees, even non-devotees. Like this last month, Purushottam month, there are so many rules and regulations, and I had the service to research some of these things from the Puranas, from the Acharyas, and there's one that I saw. It says, do not criticize devotees or non-devotees. Right? But our tendency is to criticize. We see something, we criticize. Why he's wearing that dhoti, so short, so ugly, wrongly put this way, that way. Prabhupada said this, that. Same thing with the Matajis, right? We sometimes see these articles. Not in this style, that style. Not this color, that color, bright color. This Bengali style, or I don't know, all these things that come up. So many things. I'm not saying all those who write that, I'm pretty sure they have the best intention at heart. But what I'm saying that it's our tendency to pinpoint faults. Pinpoint faults in others. That's the hook. But when we see ourselves in the mirror, it's not too bad. Right? It's okay. So that is normal psychology. But we have to be aware of this. Why? Not because we just want to be nice amongst each other. Because it is important for our spiritual advancement. If we are not careful with devotees, we will hamper our advancement. Right? This is Shastra. This is Haridas Thakur telling Lord Chaitanya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our greatest acharyas, emphasizing this point. Sadhuninda, you know, the great shark for devotees. Those of you who like swimming in the ocean, we have to be careful with the sharks, right? We see the fin, we run away, right? Why? Because the shark can come and in one bite finish you off, like that. So, this is a great instruction for us, how we deal with conflict. First, step back. Take a step back, right? This person is telling me this. All these things may come to mind because Krishna sent the person to criticize me, right? Because my Guru Maharaj wants me to be humble and tolerant, and here he comes. Here she comes. The person who's going to test me in my tolerance level, right? Somebody posted a photograph yesterday that says a cake. There was a cake, and the cake says, "I tolerate you." I posted a photograph. So that's the cake that we give, or we are given by some people around us. You know, I'm just tolerating you. So the same way we have to exercise our tolerance, right? Lord Chaitanya says, Trinara pi sunichana, that we have to carry this verse on our neck, right? We all carry our kabachas and different things there. But this is what Lord Chaitanya said that we should carry on our neck, right? Humility and tolerance. And how are you going to be tolerant if everyone is just nice with you? See, Krishna has made a perfect arrangement, right? Yesterday I was traveling from Calcutta back to Mayapur. So I took the local train, right, with 3 suitcases. You know, very good test for tolerance. Everyone pushing, you know, this, although I don't look Western that much. But yeah, people were like, you know, give me a hard time. So we have to welcome these situations. But this is easily said. When somebody insults you or writes something about you, that you don't say, "Oh yeah, thank you very much." No, you immediately try to fight back. But the point is this. Prabhupada comments in the purport about Bhagavad Gita. And I haven't really given much emphasis on what Prabhupada says here. It's very important. Prabhupada says, in regards of this quotation that he includes in the purport, that someone who's fixed in Krishna consciousness, he's never disturbed. That's what he's saying. So I went to the Bhagavad Gita itself, to the purport where Prabhupada takes this quotation from. And Prabhupada says in that purport that someone who relishes Krishna consciousness, develops some taste for Krishna consciousness, never leaves Krishna consciousness. Right? That's very important. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that if we are not careful with how we deal with devotees, right? If we are not careful how we deal with the conflicts that we are having with devotees and the conflicts that we will have with devotees, we may pay the price. And when you offend devotees, one time my spiritual master said, because I asked the question, I said, the devotee is more merciful than Krishna. Prabhupada says that. So how is it that when a devotee is offended, the punishment is so harsh that sometimes the devotee is sent away? I mean, sometimes we see that devotees leave the movement. And the explanation is because they committed offenses. I mean, that's the general explanation. Maybe other things added there. So my spiritual master, he said, because the devotees are so dear to Krishna, that although the devotee says, I don't mind that you insulted me, it's okay. The devotee, Krishna doesn't tolerate that, and he will punish. So the devotee may tolerate, but Krishna doesn't, like that. You know? So in this way, I'm trying to emphasize the point that dealing with devotees is very, very important. It's very sensitive issue, and we have to pay a lot of attention. Just like when we chant, we try to pay attention. Just like when we cook, we do something which is very delicate. The same way, dealing with devotees, it's a very delicate matter. And then we need to learn. I'm not teaching here anything, I'm just reading like a parrot what Prabhupada says, what the Bhagavatam says. So let's recap, because it's time to finish. Let's recap the teachings of this pastime, of this verse in particular. Let's glorify, let's identify what are the other devotees that may be attacking us. Let's not call it demons, let's call it devotees that may be attacking us, criticizing us, trying to harm us. Let's identify their good qualities. Number one. Number two, let's express it. Not just, oh yes, I think that you're a nice person, but I'm going to write double of the email of you wrote about me, like that. And let's wish them well. Ravindra Sarup Prabhu gives a seminar about this. Sadhu Ninda. How to strengthen your spiritual life. And he points out that even if somebody appears that he doesn't behave as a devotee, just by the fact that he or she is trying, just give them that. So he says this line, I don't want to steal his line, but he says, see them not from what they are, but from what they are trying to become. I thought it was a fantastic phrase, so I wrote it down and memorized. Don't see others from what they are, but from what they are trying to become. So everyone in this movement, somehow or another, is trying to become a devotee, right? Hopefully a pure devotee, right? All of us, we have come to Prabhupada's house, right? You know that famous slogan that goes around, he built a house in which the whole world can live. This is from an astrologer. The devotees went around, I think in the beginning when they came to India and everything was new for them. So some devotees went, and then, I don't remember exactly when, but anyway, that it happened in India, some of the Western devotees. So one astrologer came up with that reading, that he had built a house where the whole world can live. So that became coined within ISKCON. So we all have come into Prabhupada's house. ISKCON is Prabhupada's house. And we're all living here. Sometimes we are rough with each other. Like kids, we play, you know, with our brothers and sisters, and we are a bit rough. We, you know, snatch some toy position or something from each other, and then the others retaliate. But we are all in Prabhupada's house. So we need to get along. What Prabhupada said year ago in the ILS, in the big pandal, says cooperate. Prabhupada says cooperate and push forward this movement. Work cooperatively and push forward this movement. That stuck in my head, that here we are to learn how to cooperate. We may be very fallen, but at least if we learn how to cooperate, we have a chance. Right? Bhakti noi, Bheda noi. I have no bhakti, I have no knowledge. This is Prabhupada's line. But at least if we have faith in the holy name, faith in the devotees who chant the holy name, and we have some little intention to cooperate, then we have a chance. Right? That is our simple formula to fight against Kali Yuga's influence. What is Kali Yuga? Two main characteristics: quarrel and hypocrisy. You see? Quarrel and hypocrisy. Everything matches together. Everything is scientific. You see, from this, which sounds very far away from us, we can bring it right down to our life. The quarrel of the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. The tendency is there. It's in our hardware, software. It's included in the package. It's in the system already. Our tendency is to quarrel, and our tendency is to be false in our relationship. So let's fight that by following the footsteps of the great Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, and the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So let's stop here. If there's any questions or comments in regards of this. Cool.
He lost his desire to fight, and so Vritrasura was inspiring him again and again. Get up and fight, just like Krishna did to Arjuna. So, but in this situation which you described today, it looks like Indra is not very eager to fight with Vritrasura because he recognized good qualities in him. He was admiring Vritrasura's consciousness, qualities, behavior. So then he was anyway forced to fight and kill him later on.
Yeah.
So can you just describe that situation? Because Arjuna didn't want to fight in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita because he was put in illusion in order for that conversation to happen, and the proper questions and answers, so that we will learn how to purify ourselves throughout the thousands of years after that Bhagavad Gita happened. But now in this story, Indra has to fight with a devotee, Vaishnava, and and can you just clarify it?
A similar instance happened when Arjuna had to fight his grandfather. That's a similar. I'm just trying to relate both, because it's true. Arjuna, it is explained by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, he was put into illusion, right? So Bhagavad Gita can be spoken. But in fact, Arjuna wasn't just subjective. He wasn't just sentimental about it. Oh, they are my relatives. No, he was actually respecting. He says they are great, Bhishma Dev is there, Dronacharya. But in the case of Bhishma, because the passing away of Bhishma Dev in the Bhagavatam is described, he goes back to Godhead, right? He's a powerful bhakta. It's amazing that the Bhishma Parva, it's amazing. The power, the devotional power of the grandfather of the Kurus, it's manifested then. But in the Mahabharata, it describes how Arjuna saw the greatness of all the Leela that was happening between Bhishma and Krishna. It's beautiful how Prabhupada describes such a heroic relationship. It was the perfection of a Kshatriya. He pure passion and chivalry. Warrior from top to toe, and that his Lord is there. What he says, the chadar, the upper cloth falls, and he comes and gets the wheel, chariot, right? The wheel of the chariot, and for him that was perfection. So we see every morning Radha Madhava playing nicely the flute with his sakis and like that. We see Gauranga with his associates, or Jagannath, brother, sister. For Bhishma, the perfection of his sight is that his Lord is there to combat him, right? In the warrior, chivalry, mood. It was a perfection for him, right? So, this is just to say the quality of Bhishma Dev. But Arjuna, he was objective as well. It's not only that. Prabhupada comments, it's very subtle because he says he's soft-hearted, and he was glorifying his superiors as well. at one point, it's also in the Mahabharata, this is a very nice pastime, you know, where he disguised himself as, what's his name? As a eunuch, as a... Yes, and then he goes with when they are disguised, all of them, they are disguised in the kingdom. Brihadlala? But then he goes and you know, Arjuna, yeah, it was discovered, and the Kurus came. The Kurus came to get him, and he went with the prince. And then the prince comes back. Anyway, the point is that at that point, Arjuna said, okay, you know, many times during the exile, Arjuna had to be held back by Yudhishthira because he wanted to go and fight anyway, right? A few times happened. But at this point, Arjuna grabs his arrows and he sends the arrows and he pays dandavats to the Kurus, particularly, he says, to Bhishmadev. So they knew, Bhishmadev knew in his mind, this, it's done by Arjuna. Right? So, in other words, Arjuna had a true respect for his superiors. I mean, he was a man of honor. He was a great, great personality. But I haven't read that, well, it appears, it could appear that Indra was hesitant to fight with Vritrasura because him being a Vaishnava, although that is not said. But we can see that although nice glorifications were going on, externally both were doing their duty. And we can see after this that Indra will certainly do his duty and cut his other arm and eventually, according to the description, kill Vritrasura. Right?
On the end of this chapter, we will find almost last sloka, I think, describing that everyone was happy when Indra won,
yeah.
But he was not happy. He was lamenting that he had to kill a Brahmana again.
Yeah.
So at what point fighting with a devotee is sanctioned by Krishna?
Yeah.
Like Arjuna was asked by Krishna to fight with his teachers,
yeah.
and there was no Vaishnava Parata on the end.
Yeah.
And here Vishnu gave the weapon to kill a Brahmana, Vaishnava again, Vritrasura, who was a Chitraketu king before. So you emphasize today that there is a great danger of Vaishnava aparat, and Indra is admitting good qualities in the Vritrasura, so that is good thing. But in both cases, in Bhagavad Gita and here, we see how Krishna gives instruction for two devotees to kill each other. So is there any situation in our life when we have to continue to fight with the devotee?
So we can add a tip to today's conflict resolution discussion. We go and ask Krishna. We go and ask Guru. We go and ask someone higher than us, not our mind or false ego. Is it okay that I have a good fight with this Prabhu or this Mataji? At least, you know, in the old days, I remember once I was explaining about Almatata Prabhu, the old Gurukul teacher. He said in the old days, two pandits will fight, not punching, but they all come with the turbans, right? And in the turbans they have jewels and different, you know, like the military, they have the, what do you call stars and bars and medals and things like that. So in the old days, the pandits will have the turbans and they will have jewels and different things that they have collected as donations from the kings and like that. So they will fight based on the rules of fighting or arguing. And the one who was defeated, he will have to give his turban, like that. So this is another thing of Kali Yuga, that sometimes somebody defeats us, but we won't accept. We just hide and say, okay, Prabhu, okay. Even Guru may come and chastise. Why are you fighting? I mean, we read Prabhupada's pastimes in the Harisori Prabhu's transcendental, what's it called? Transcendental diary, yeah? We see punch-ups are there. I'm not making, this is not commercial for his books, but I'm telling you, read those books. There are punch-ups right here. in the Lotus building. You can see a couple, right? And Prabhupada would get heavy, right, on some situations. But sometimes devotees may accept, sometimes devotees may not accept. The point in regards of your question is that it's one pastime, many lessons. And the lesson when some Kshatriyas had to fight, like in case of Yudhishthira, it is described in the Bhagavatam, he was morose, he was depressed. Although he knew that Krishna himself was ordering the fight, it says, rivers of blood because of me. That is another lesson, that's another type of lesson. Humility, you know, because of me. So many people had been dead, had been killed. So that is another training. This is conflict resolution. That one is humility training. Yeah. So like that. But I think it's a good point because Krishna is ordering, and both are doing their best. They both are fighting. Right? But not because of their false ego. Not because of an email that was sent out to, 50 other people. Right? Or something that was published somewhere. Some web page or something. But because Krishna, so this is the first step. We have to ask, is Krishna wanting me to fight? Sometimes we have to, right? Sometimes Prabhupada said, when is the only time, Prabhupada writes it, I forgot now exactly where, but I can get the quote. Prabhupada writes, it's in the Bhagavatam, and he refers to Arjuna and to Hanuman. And he says, the only time when we are authorized to use our anger is when? Yes. To defend the devotees of Krishna. Right? To defend the devotees of Krishna. But I didn't want to touch on that because then we may fall on another different layer of the conflict resolution. Because they may say, okay, I'm going to fight with him because he's fighting with my friend. And then it becomes a whole story. This is part 2 of the training. But anyway, the principle is always refer back to Krishna, to the spiritual master, or to some senior authority that both accept, and then we can have a resolution. Yes, have a good fight. I remember when I was in school, year 11 or 12, I remember we have a mathematics teacher. Right? And he was very good, but he was very rough. Those one of streetwise. So I remember there were 2 friends of mine who were very naughty and always bothering each other. Like joking, this and that. But sometimes they can get over the top. So I remember one time he came and he closed the door. And he went to his car, says, wait here. He went to his car and he brought punching gloves. Close the door, nobody says anything, go ahead. Now, punch each other for 5 minutes or whatever. Finish it, no more. So sometimes Krishna may say, okay, I'm not saying punching gloves. Saying, okay, sit down and argue. What's your point? What's your point? Okay, that's it. Civilized. Not behind a computer, trying to get, be careful with that one. Better go face to face. My Guru Maharaj always says, just go face to face, physically, and talk. Say the good things, then say what's your point, what are the faults, what do you see, and bring solutions. That's another thing. Bring solutions. What are the options? What do you want me to change? Anyway, we better stop. Thank you. Oh, you have a question. Okay. Wait. Point. Yes.
One of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Bhakti Raksha Sridhar Swami, he told, mind your own business and do your own bhajan.
Okay, perfect.
Mind your own business and do your own. My Guru Maharaj said, write a list, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. Write a list, write everyone's name on the planet on that list, and write your name last.
Good point.
Then he also told, see good in others, find fault in yourself. So I think these are solution to all fighting. See good in others, find fault with oneself. Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Granth Maharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Gaur Premanand.